Hello, hello. If that opening seemed a little prolonged, just because this video is going to be prolonged. If you're clicking on this video and you're one of those people that are just wanting to see what it is before you click off again, hello, goodbye, I guess. This part of what this video is going to be about. If you don't know, these art gripe videos are, of course, me drawing, but usually I'm not even really talking about the drawing. Usually I'm talking more about life lessons and stuff like that, I guess. But this video is going to sort of be an update in a way, but not really. It's more going to be about me talking about the generalities of what's been going on with me lately, sort of my overall life goals. I don't know how to describe it, but we'll get into it whenever we get into it. For the time being, yes, this is just going to be a picture of some of the girls from the IDW comic run that's going around right now. I remember the reason why I started drawing this is because the Sonic movie comes out tomorrow, I think. I think it comes out tomorrow, or maybe it's already out. Unless some people are reviewing it, but I don't know. I also don't care. I've also weirdly heard that it's a good movie, which is bizarre to me. But I also don't really trust people to say whether something is a good movie anymore, because so many movies are actually garbage, but they're also very pandery. So I don't know. I'll reserve judgment. If it's like the Pikachu movie, I guess it'll be fine. Like, I'm not big into Pokemon, but the Pikachu movie was, it was fine. Not the best thing in the world, but yeah. Alright, so I guess I'll get into it. I've been very ill lately whenever I was drawing this. Like, this drawing took, I timed it out. It took over 15 hours to get done. And a lot of that was because I had some major malfunctions about, 15% of the way through, I guess, that contributed to it, but it's also a very big drawing that also contributed to it. Also, I'm just not in particularly good health right now. I don't have Corona-chan. Don't have to worry about that. But I've been incredibly sluggish as a result. I've been waking up for about 3 to 5 hours, trying to work, and then falling back asleep immediately. So it's just been this sort of fugue state, this fever dream of waking up, trying to work, and then waking back up and trying to work and just feeling like a machine in the process. It has not felt good. A lot of that is also probably because I've been really stressed out lately. And it's mainly because I still have not gotten the primary done for that animation, which might sound a little bit strange until I tell you that it's an 11-minute long animation. A lot of that is because the original script was a little bit long, but is one where I decided, I'm going to try to bring in external talent. So I started getting voice actors together, like Team 4-Star guys. Mike from Red Letter Media is doing a voice. And whenever he came on, I didn't expect him to come on, so I had to write a new scene, which made the animation longer than I had intended for it to be. So it's effectively two animations that are stuck inside one another. So you get the idea. It's just going to be very long, and whenever I start a new animation, this part is always the worst part. Because doing the creative process of drawing out the idea for how to frame the animation, what the timing of the jokes are going to be, what the jokes are visually, realizing that the dialogue does not necessarily correlate to anything that's interesting or funny, so there has to be something visually on the screen that is entertaining at the same time. It's just a very visually creative process that is incredibly mentally draining. And also the fact that I'm not producing anything at the same time is, like, that really, really worries me all the time. That's probably what I'm going to be talking about more than anything else. Like, this animation idea started back in, like, October or something. And I've just been trying to just get to it this entire time. Like I'll tell you what I think about in regards to my work. The thing that I probably worry about most is, am I making stuff for YouTube that is interesting to people? And I have to keep reminding myself of this. But the people that support me on Patreon are doing it because, they want to. It's not necessarily because I'm pumping things out so rapidly. Like there's an animator on YouTube right now that's gaining popularity, Meat Canyon. If you're watching this for any bizarre reason, hello. But he does these videos that are like intentionally distorted and sort of horrifying looking, like the models are all like terrifying to behold. And they're funny for that reason. But they're very static. He doesn't animate them too much. But still, the amount that he does animate them is impressive, considering that he's also, I'm assuming, I don't know if he works alone or not, but like they're just very static, not rigid, I guess, but they're animations that are like the stuff that I used to make in a way. In the sense of, if there's much movement going on, it's like a few frames of animation. A lot of it is tweening. It's mostly just characters just standing there doing their mouth flaps, but it's still funny. Yeah, they're still good animations, so I'd go check them out. A lot of those done for the sake of time consistency and everything else. So definitely don't want to sound like I'm knocking him, because this is the inverse, actually. I've stumbled into the problem that all animators, all artists usually come up against. And that is, the more that I work, the more proficient I get at doing something, the more complicated I end up trying to make it. And the more complicated it gets, the slower you get. And also the slower you get and the more complicated it gets, the more stress-inducing it becomes. Because I'm at the point where I feel like everything needs to look good. And the ideas need to get more complicated, or they need to get more pronounced. And that's just the fact that I'm trying so hard to be more and more professional and to put more effort and work in, like, class or whatever, however you want to describe it, I don't know. The more that I do that, the slower everything gets. And the slower everything gets, the more that I feel how slow it is. And the more that I feel how slow it is, the more I start seeing feedback of, oh, you don't make animations anymore, or whatever. Even though, like, in terms of most, like, especially ones that were animating whatever I was first starting animating. Like, take Rubber Ross, for example. He released the first animation he's done, I think, in a year? Maybe a couple of years, I don't know. Maybe more than that, I really don't remember. But he released the first animation that he's done of anything in quite some time to YouTube, fairly recently, within the past month, I think, actually. Which, good for him, of course. But just... case in point, a lot of animators have slowed down, and I don't know what they do in terms of their personal lives, how they make their money and everything. But it is like I'm working at the same pace that they are, or a little bit faster, or way faster in some cases, because that's just the nature of what animation is. And again, I'm not trying to knock him or anything. Definitely not. But just... case in point, anyone sort of from that era knows what I'm talking about. This isn't the days of just moving things across the screen anymore. You can still do that, and especially if you're starting out, I'd encourage you to do that. But especially the more well-known you get, the more expectations there are for you to do something bigger and more grand. And that's mostly what it is. And I brought up Meat Canyon specifically because uh, he's been rocketing up, and I'm kind of curious what his sub count is now. Because he has more subscribers than I do now, which is pretty easy to do. So like he's putting, I don't want to say less effort. I'm definitely not going to say that. But he's not experiencing the same problems that I am, and he has way more subscribers as a result because he's just focusing on just being entertaining and just getting stuff out the door. But I feel like even that runs you ragged after a while. It's easy to say, oh, just make faster, uglier animations or whatever your solution might be theoretically. But even that destroys you mentally after a while. And you get to the point where you're just... I've talked about this before, but the difference between mental exhaustion and physical exhaustion, and like, I kind of miss the days of just being tired but feeling good about the work that I did. Whereas now, especially with animation, you... If you have your own job and you go to work doing whatever that job is, like you're a security guard or you're bagging groceries, or does anyone bag groceries anymore? But if you're doing just whatever, sure, you get the work done, you go home, and you do whatever it is that you want to do in your personal time, and then you repeat that process. And I definitely don't want that life anymore. I'm not suggesting that. Like, I'm just not wired for that. But you can be done with it. Like, you're done. Whenever you finish the job for the day, it's over. Usually. It depends on what your job is. And you can just go home, and you can reset. And of course that you eventually get worn down over time doing that as well. But you can at least have the knowledge of, like, that mental trigger of, it's done. Like, it's just over now. For at least until the next day. Like, there's a defined point where you're just complete. And there's a certain satisfaction in that, at least. But with, like, these very long-term things, whether you're a writer, whether you're animating, what's some other long-term projects people do? Like, if you're making a movie or something, oh, that must be the worst. The idea of being in this incredibly long-term project that is utilizing many different people, and especially the ones that get canned halfway through. That must be a nightmare. But anyways, sorry. Point being, you do all this work for months and months at a time, and no one ever sees it. And people may never even see it. You might get to the point where you realize, oh, this isn't even going to work. And there's never that sense of being done with anything. There's no satisfaction. There's no point at which you realize, oh, I'm finally here. Or, like, there's never that switch. You never hit that switch where you know you're all right. So that's kind of what's been causing a lot of stress with me lately. Just, especially, like, I was on call with, it may have been during the heave-ho thing. I can remember. But I was on call with Pat and Paige, and we were talking about something. And I was letting them listen to the audio from the latest cartoon. And while I was working on it, I was also working on animating in Toon Boom. And at that moment, I realized that Toon Boom had cut the audio incorrectly. Because, like, Toon Boom has a limit of 10,000 frames, I think it is, before you have to start on a new project. Because what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to animate little segments of a cartoon and then export that and then recompile it together in another program, which I usually don't do. I just make the whole thing as one big unit. Big unit. Sorry. But and you're not supposed to do that. Like, that's actually a really bad idea for a lot of reasons. I even have trouble exporting a lot of the cartoons. And even, like, usually I have to export the whole cartoon as individual, like, export frame 1000 to 2000, export frame 2001 to 3001. I have to do a lot of that, to 3000, sorry. But I was doing that timeline, and I noticed, it's because it was already one timeline and then another, like, quarter of a timeline. And then I realized, the audio isn't complete. It didn't import it correctly. And so I imported it again, the second part of it, and realized this is an entire other timeline. It might actually be 2 more timelines. So it ended up being like 2 full ones. The second one was actually longer than the first one. But just that moment of realizing, I'm not even, like, I'm a little bit more than halfway done with the first timeline as far as doing a primary for it. And then realizing, not only am I not halfway done with this whole thing, I'm not halfway done with the halfway point of the whole thing. So it's like my workload instantly doubled and I didn't even know it. And like that moment, just a huge wave of anxiety just rushed over me, just knowing there's so much to go. There's so much more work to do. And no one can even watch me work on it. Because the primary, like, I can't even stream it because the creative process for doing a primary is just so, you can't watch videos or talk while you're doing this stuff. And a lot of the times you're just like sitting there, just looking at the screen, just trying to think, what should the framing of this be? Because, like, doing this primary right here, this drawing, like, you can tell how many iterations I'm going over this thing because I don't know the models, I can't draw Sonic characters that well. So I'm just trying to figure that out. Like, that's what a lot of this is. It's just trying to figure out how everything works. That's part of what drawing is. That's part of any creative process. If you're writing, like I've said before, if you're not learning while you're writing, then you're not writing correctly. Because a lot of writing is just self-exploration and exploring ideas. And, like, you're not writing down, here's how everything works. You're not explaining everything to the viewer. You're explaining things to yourself and realizing how everything works. Like, you're realizing how the characters work and how the plot works and how the core idea works. And in the process of doing that, you make the book. That's how the creative process works. And with this drawing, like, I love drawing. If I had a choice, I would just sit here and just draw art gripes forever. Like, that's the thing I actually enjoy doing, because I can be done. I can actually be done with it. I draw the picture, it takes 15 hours or whatever it needs to take, but I draw it. I can, like, it's a long process, but it's not that long. And I can get to the point where it is complete, and I get that satisfaction of something being done. Like, for a while, I have been really stressed out and just not really enjoying much of anything. Like, I've warned you guys about this in the past. I have been depressed lately, but a lot of that is just chemical, I think. Like I said, I've warned you guys about this in the past. Depression is not always just like mental or anything. A lot of it is just physiological. So a good component of that has been physiological for me, because, like I said, I have not been in good health and lots of other things have been going on. We've had newborn lambs, and I've been having to do like 3 a.m. feeding, so I've been having to get up and do that. And thankfully, they've gotten old enough now that that's kind of tapered off a little bit. But just there's been a lot being bombarded against my the shores of my normal life for a while. So I've been having to deal with that at the same time. But like just being able to just sit down and just draw one picture and have it be done. Like I actually felt really good drawing this, and that's maybe one of the reasons why it took so long, because I was just enjoying doing it. Especially whenever, like, one of the reasons why the primary process takes so long for animating. But, sorry, point being, whenever you're doing the primary process for animating, like I said, you're trying to learn as you're doing this, and you're thinking, and you can't stream it because you're just sitting there just contemplating how the scene is working, and once you do one layout, like this one picture, this drawing, you can see how long it takes just to get this done. So now imagine that you're having to do that with animation, and especially now, like, I'm not taking one model and then just applying mouth flaps to it, and then I'm done. I don't do that anymore, and maybe I should, I don't know. But just, the process of doing that is so mentally exhausting, it just destroys you over time. So a lot of it is, I'll get like a few, like you've seen how I do the animation in the past, where there's like a segment of like 30 frames, 100 frames sometimes, where it's just one picture, and then it makes the character move a little bit. Like, it's just that. You're basically just doing thumbnails in larger form. If I was actually part of an animation studio, I imagine I would just be doing the thumbnails as little sketches, and then someone else would have to worry about more of the layout process. There would be more people involved, so I wouldn't have as much of a problem with this. Maybe. I don't know. But it just, as soon as you are done doing one of them, you can't just immediately jump into the next one, because you're just in this refractory period where you're just, like, you're borderline losing your mind because that creative process is so aggressive. It's hard to describe. Sorry. But that's the problem with doing the animation. It's just this this incredibly prolonged process of just never reaching a point where you're actually satisfied with what's happening. And that's kind of the gist of it. And it's so much more satisfying just to be able to just draw. Which is what's going to make this next part really painful, because this is around the part where at some point I accidentally merge my line down with the primary. Which I'm sure every artist has some horrifying experience having had happen at some point. It's probably around here, since I just got through copying that boot and decided to go back over it. But after I did that, I realized, oh no, like they're all one layer. Can I go back far enough? And it's probably somewhere around here, actually. Can I go back far enough that I can move it back out of their primary? And Psy actually has a lot of rollback to its the number of steps that you have. And it's probably more useful for someone that doesn't do these quick stroke lines where every little stroke counts as its own thing. Yeah, somewhere around here I realize it. But it didn't have enough, unfortunately. Which means that everything was locked into that primary layer. And I actually had the thought of, like, this is where my anxiety and stress started coming from. Because I had this moment of, like, realizing it's on the primary and then thinking, what do I do? What? Yeah, here I realize it. I was thinking, what do I do? What do I do? And here, I decided to leave it in. You can tell that it's getting much faster. That's because I sped everything up. Most of this video is at 9.5 speed. At this point, I think I cranked it up to 16 times because it took so long and nothing really is going on. But it's me trying to figure out, all right, how do I do this? Because I'm trying to pull what I have drawn of the line off of the primary layer, but also leave the primary layer, and then realizing I can reduce, like whenever I adjust the contrast, all it's doing is making the primary white, so all the lines are still there, so I can't get rid of them. So I end up having to go into Photoshop, and Photoshop is an asshole about this shit. So Photoshop is like, I'm helping in doing all of its Photoshopisms. And, like, I'm going to make a new canvas. Oh, but it's an RBG canvas, but I won't allow you to have transparent layers. And I had to sit here and remember all the rules for it. And to you sitting there, I'm sure it looks fine. But a lot of the problem is that whenever I can get rid of all this primary stuff, but either the white is still going to be there, so I'm going to accidentally have to worry about the primary, like drawing the line and it combining color-wise with the rest of the palette. Like, it needs to be translucent. All the layers have to be translucent. I can't have this stuff interfering with itself. But also, like, there's a certain level of aliasing that goes into doing raster line. Like, I'm very serious about my line work. That's part of the reasons why my animation is such a problem, is because animating is not the same thing. And here I'm trying to, I remember, I can use, maybe I can use masking. Maybe I can do an inverse of the primary to mask out the lines of the original drawing, and it doesn't work because Photoshop starts freaking out about that too, and I can't remember how masks work in Photoshop. Oh, it was so bad. And it's still bad. But what I eventually ended up doing is just duplicating the layer, cranking the contrast up so high that all the aliasing that I was trying to preserve on the edges of my lines were just turned into pure black. Like, even if there was something that was at, like, 15% opacity, because that's how brushes work. You're drawing one central line and it sort of carries over with the rest of the edges of the line. I don't know if you're watching this and you don't know anything about drawing digitally, then this probably makes no sense at all, but that's how it works. But I made it so that on that layer, all of it is pure black. And then I just selected everything that is black and then inverted it and deleted what wasn't there. And that ended up being the simplest possible solution. And even that did not really preserve all the aliasing that I wanted to. Like, you could tell me, like, zooming in on parts and seeing, all the pixels here are too blocky now. There's too much, there's not enough opacity and the stroke left anymore, because I was trying to preserve the strokes. And then in the middle of this, I thought, maybe I should just stop trying to do this and just redraw the whole thing. Like, preserve the primary, obviously, but just redraw the whole thing. But I managed to save it. Because after I got rid of the primary on that layer by doing that contrast trick, I went back over it and applied another, like, hue layer to recolor the thing, and then started messing with the levels and the contrast in order to get the opacity of the original pixels back to what it needed to be. And I ended up having to colorize everything as a result. But if you colorize something that it tries to push all the opacity of the pixels together rather than preserving what they were originally, which makes it worse. Oh. But I was having such a good time until that point. Oh well. This has been what my life has been over the past probably 3 or 4 months. Just this being a ball of anxiety because I'm constantly worrying I'm not making enough content for YouTube right now. I need to make more. I need to be faster. And then in the process of worrying about being faster and that generating more anxiety, it actually slows me down because I'm so stressed out and not happy with my life in general that it actually causes the creative process to slow down dramatically because I just don't want to do anything anymore. And whenever I do want to do something, I just end up staring at the screen because there's just so much of that anxiety there. And I'm very aware of this. Like, I tell you guys all the time about this, and that's one of the reasons why you watch these videos, is because you're like, yeah, I feel that too. I also have these things. Because that's a very, like, these are all very human things. But it's not enough to just realize that you have these things. Like, yeah, I know I've been depressed. A lot of that is just chemical. Some of it is, like, lifestyle, obviously. That has some correlation. I can look at that and analyze it from a distance and know, like, that's just there. It exists. Like, there have been some sources of like anxiety or PTSD or whatever. Like, I don't know if I even call it that, but things that have happened in my life where if I think about them, I'll immediately start feeling stressed out, stuff like that. And one of the tricks that you can do for that sort of problem is to name it. Like, refer to it by a name internally in your head. Like, one of the worst things you could do is try to push it away and say that, I'm not thinking about it. It's not there. No, you can't do that because it just makes it worse. You have to address it and go, yep, that's there. Like, this is what your name is. This is who you are. This is what you're about. I acknowledge that you are there, brain. And then you just go about with what you're doing. And eventually, over time, it sort of lessens the power that it has over you because you're treating it as almost like a screaming child or like a Riley puppy or something. Where it's like, yes, you are valid, you are there, but other things are going on. And for whatever reason, that ends up working as far as reducing your stress over time. It just, I guess, depowers it. It makes it seem less important. Like the fact that you're trivializing it while also acknowledging that it's there is what's doing that, I'm guessing. But you can view things from a distance doing it that way. And that actually helps a lot. But just because I know I have all these problems right now, as far as anxiety and all these other things, and even I can realize, well, part of the solution is to stop making these giant projects and, focus on other things. It doesn't make it go away on its own. Like, just because you can name the problem and you have power over it does not mean that the problem just stops existing, right? Just because you had just because you have PTSD or something, or just because you have depression and you realize, well, most of my depression actually isn't even relative to my life, it's just like chemical, like it's a medical issue more than anything else. Just because you realize that doesn't mean that it just stops, right? You still have to deal with it. You have power over it and you'll eventually be fine, but so that's kind of where I am right now. Just, I'll be fine, but it's still there. And sort of, like, this also has roots with, like, the scary girls, like the scary lessons stuff that I was trying to do, which I do still intend on doing. But, like, that's another gigantic project. Like, it's absolutely massive. And in the past, whenever I was younger, especially whenever I did not have a job, and I was, just living at home thinking I've got to have something take off. Like, that's part of the reason why I was able to do animation, have the YouTube stuff take off. Is just because, I had nothing else going on and I could actually put the work in and know, well, sure, I'm not making any money off YouTube, but I can keep going and maybe eventually I'll get better. Because it's not like I'm in dire straits right now. Well, just actually, it was. Like I had no money and I couldn't feed myself, but I was still, again, still living at home and all this stuff, so I could just do what I needed to do, and if it worked, it worked, and if it didn't, I'm already at the bottom. It can't get any worse than this, really. And there was a point in my life where I was actually considering, like, what if I just become a hobo? Like, what if I just fucking leave and just wander off and just never come back and just fade away into history somewhere? Just, I was not in a good place at all. So the reason why I could write and I could have so much time directed toward and put so much energy towards things like that is because nothing else was going on. That's just what I was at the time. And now, like, I really want to do stuff like this, but there's such major projects. And I find I cannot, it's like, sure, it's stressful, but it's so frustrating knowing I want to do, like, part of the reason why I want to do the scary lessons thing is because, like, I have all these things about I was not raised correctly. I didn't receive the, like, even now I don't receive the emotional support that I probably should, because I don't have a wife. I don't have really a family or anything aside from parents. And I don't talk to them about any, they don't really know what I do, so it doesn't matter. So there's just no one there in my life that can do this for me. Like the emotional support that most people will get, even if they have, bad working conditions, they're not enjoying their job, whatever. A lot of the times they'll still have a girlfriend, or they'll still have a husband, or they'll still have kids or something. They'll have some sort of focal point in their life where they're deriving some sort of positive emotional feedback from something, right? I just don't have that. I can sort of balance that out because I do have, like, good personal judgment, so I can, like, self-rationalize and direct myself in a way that I don't necessarily require that all the time, but I still feel it because, like, I had this feeling of being completely alone in life all the time. Because I am alone in life all the time. There's just no one there, right? So I'm never getting that positive feedback. It all has to come exclusively from me. And sure, like, fans can go, "You're doing a good job, pal," but they don't know me. You guys don't know me. You're not, like, part of my actual life. You're just, like, you're a component. You're like this online people. You're text on a page. It's creator stuff that I guess you guys may not be able to understand. I don't know. But with the scary lesson stuff, the reason why I want to do it is because I just never got that emotional support as a kid. I never got the direction I needed as a kid. I still don't. And that's the reason why I want to make stuff like that. But in the process of doing that, I still have that creative problem of, I'm not making stuff for YouTube. I'm not streaming. I'm not staying engaged with everyone. So I have this constant need to make smaller content that is more easily accessible, which restricts my ability to do these big major projects that I feel like this is the, like, if I leave behind a legacy of something, I don't want it to be a bunch of fucking furry drawings. No offense to the girls here. Or Sonic or anything. But just in general, I don't want, like, my a legacy to be, there was the guy that he, like, drew that one meme, and he did Dark Souls in summary or something. And then that's it. Like, I want to be able to do something like make a game where people go, oh, I have such good, fond memories of that. I go back and replay it from time to time. I love the characters. I love the setting. And, like, people make, I don't know, fan fiction of it or something. Just something that gets people involved and is a positive experience on their life, that makes them feel good about themselves and actually gives them information and the capacity to improve their own lives. I want that. That's what I'm really passionate about, but I just don't have the time to be able to do it. And that drives me absolutely crazy. That's what's frustrating more than anything else. So in regards to what I was trying to get at, one of the revelations, not the revelations, but one of the things I've had to remind myself of anyways, because again, I self-manage pretty well, but I'm still alone, but you get it. One of the things I've had to remind myself of is, look, don't worry about the YouTube thing. Yeah, there's going to be a huge section of time where you're not making anything. But like, take the Meat Canyon thing. He's doing a really good job. He's already way past me in subscribers. I've been going at this for a long time. My sub count just does not go up. And it doesn't really matter how many Pokemon videos I release or how many funny animations or whatever I put out. Stuff like that is for a general group of viewers that don't care whether I live or die. And I notice whenever I release things like that, the amount of money that I make on Patreon doesn't go up. It always goes down. Like, I think the most money I ever made on Patreon is whenever I first released the thing. And it hasn't gone up ever since. It only ever goes down. But it has remained stable. And it has remained stable because the people that actually care about my success are the people that remain consistent. And that's sort of this another, like, weird online creator problem is, like, I know Nick from Bitter Bits does this too. If you remember him, he's the guy that was realizing most people probably don't know who that is. At the end of my Dark Souls 1 playthrough, I did the thing where I brought in people to talk. Maybe that was only German Spy. I don't know if Nick was on that or not. I can't remember. But he's been on streams with me. If you don't know who he is, check him out. He's a Twitch person. That's how he makes his living. He streams on Twitch. Bitter Bits, one thing, is who he is on there. But his streams don't have, like, huge numbers of people, but he is able to support himself because he has a really good community of people around him. A lot of that does intersect with my fan base as well. A lot of the people that support me support him as well. And typically, if you're an online creator, there are a lot of people that have, like, I don't know, like hundreds of thousands of people subscribe to them, or millions perhaps. But if you go check out their videos, they don't really have that many views. Like, they don't have millions of views per video every single time that they release. It's sometimes even, like, down below the 100,000s in a lot of cases. Because sure, they have a lot of subs, but a lot of those people just don't watch them. Or they're really just, they're not dedicated to watching them, or it's just very intermittent. They're kind of the general YouTube base where they will watch a few videos, like, ever so often, and then they go back to their normal life and they forget the internet exists even sometimes. And then they'll come back and they'll see a random video in their feed and they'll watch that and they'll, like, binge one channel one day and then forget about the internet again. Whenever you are trying to make a living online, like, the reason why that video games chase whales is because of this thing too. where you have a core group that is the people that actually most of your money or most of your watch time or whatever is coming from, and the rest of them are just sort of just there. Like a little bit of money or time or engagement will come from them, but not that much. So as a result, most of your time gets invested in focusing on the whales. And I don't consider my Patreon people to be whales or anything, but I'm just showing a point here. There's always going to be a core group that is going to be the people that are supporting you more than anyone else. That goes for your personal life too. Like, I don't have... I'm not married to a whale, as you might say. This is probably less funny than I think it is in my head. I don't like. There's always going to be core groups, no matter what it is. If it's your personal life, if it's business, there's always going to be that core group. That is the thing that most of your support, most of your money or time or whatever is coming from. So my remember revelation that I had, where I was like, remember, this is true. And I was like, yeah, I know it's true. Is what actually matters is the people on Patreon, whether or not they are consistently pleased. And sure, I've lost some people because they're like, you're not producing fast enough. And sure, like I really can't do anything about that. And like the scary lessons thing, I could work on that, but it would mean I've got to stop everything. Like, it's like writing a book. I can't do all these things at the same time. I would have to completely stop. No commissions, no animations, maybe not even any art gripes. Just I wake up and I work on that thing, and that's what I work on. Like, I would have to... I kind of wish I knew how, like, Toby Fox, I guess that's a good example, how in the world he works. Whether, like, what is his daily ritual like? Does he even have a normal job? Does he just wake up and work on that, or not work on it? Does he have anything else that's going on? I don't know. But I know that I do remember that whenever I was working on that book, I got it done and I started shipping it around, but that was because I had the time. And because that was the thing that I worked on. Whereas now I'm having to do a million things. Like in between, like even the stuff outside, the farm stuff that I'm having to do, that also interferes with it. Like having enough wood to keep this fucking... we have a normal ass heater here. I have to chuck wood in here. I've got to go do that after I'm done doing this, actually. Just normal life combined with the fact that I'm having to do animations, art gripes, do commentary tracks, do some stuff for other people as well that have nothing to do with my channel specifically. Do the commissions, do Twitch streams, do Picardo streams for whenever those are coming up. That's just even the tip of the iceberg right there. There's just so many things going on that I'm just stretched too thin. And I've made the joke before, I wish I had a wife so I can make her do my in-betweens. That's a joke, but I really wish I had someone that was like part of my personal life that I knew I could rely on, that was just a safety net, like just part of... There's someone to support me. I just don't have that. So I'm missing that as well, which is very frustrating, but there's nothing I can do about it. But I just don't have enough to be able to do all this. Because it's only me. It's just me and no one else. I'm hiring out Greymind, actually. He's doing another Dragon Ball video that's gonna come out maybe. Like, I told him to just if you're listening to this, take as much time as you want to. I'm not concerned about when that comes out. I told him that can come out in 5 years and I won't care. Just get it done however you need it to get it done. If you don't get it done, don't worry about it. Like, it's so long, I can't sit around working on that as well. I will drive myself absolutely insane. So that's like, Greymine is like the one like shining beacon, I guess, right now, of knowing, thank God someone else is part of my creative process right now, even if it's something small. That's also been another source of anxiety because it's an anime video, and the most like toxic, like hateful parts of my YouTube life have always come from those anime videos. This one is not like in character and played character. It's more just, it's like the Nox video, the Nox video, the villain video. That's telling. It's like that. It's more just analytical and breaking things down. But it is about Gohan, and a lot of people. This part of what the video is about. Just the fact that so many people had formative experiences with Dragon Ball at the time. So a lot of people get really defensive about Gohan and what he needs. And that's what the video is about, essentially. But I'm anticipating a lot of toxic assholes to start climbing out of the woodworks. Just because, one, it's an anime video. Two, it's about Gohan. It's not even really criticizing Gohan, but just the fact that I'm talking about Dragon Ball at all is going to make some communities of people really angry, and I'm just anticipating, like the last time I released one of those, I started getting people making fraudulent accounts impersonating Toei in an effort to get copyright strikes placed on my channel to get me taken down. Some people were making fraudulent claims that I was, what was it? That I was trying to seduce underage people on my Discord or something. I can't remember what it was. But it's like, these people are fucking nuts. This would actually impact my life negatively. I've got to get rid of these people. So that's where all that came from. So just, I'm anticipating that. Like, I'm not anticipating it. I fear the fact that that might be a reality because so many people in the anime community are just so unstable. And just, it's a fucking cartoon. But I imagine people are going to be like that. There'll be, and all it takes is like, just the same as it only takes a few people to support you and to give you some satisfaction in life. It only takes a few people. It only takes that one guy or that one or two like horrid asshole people to like bring you down, to create huge complications. Like, one person is enough to fuck up a country. One person is enough to start a movement that causes other people to lose their minds. One person is enough to completely destroy your life. If they really wanted to, they might destroy their own lives in the process, bear in mind, but that doesn't stop crazy people. If people want to be crazy, and here's me realizing her sleeves go up to her elbows. Why is there nothing there? So there's my excuse for having a boob window, I guess. Part of that is because originally she was going to wear one solid piece, but then I thought, well, she already has that sort of outfit, so I'll try to retain that. And then I forgot about it. So anyways, but yeah, so working on the anime video thing, anticipating that's going to give me anxiety. That's been giving me anxiety too. And I've been sort of worried about Greymine a little bit. Like, this probably is not going to affect him. They won't blame him. Like, they're not going to blame the editor. They'll blame me for anything. So he should be fine. I don't think it's going to affect him in any way at all. But I'm hoping that I won't have that problem where there's just some toxic shitheads that want to start online drama for no reason. Because that's been the only time in history I've ever had any problems with dealing with people in regards to the channel, other than like random companies flagging videos, like the Callie Briggs thing. I made that one animation and it got taken down within a few days because some periphery company in Canada that was related to Warner Brothers decided to place a strike on my channel. And they eventually took it off, but the animation was top to bottom parody and protected under every law imaginable. But you can tell it's still not up. And it's not up because of YouTube, and YouTube just does not work. And if you're a major corporation of some sort, you can just fuck people over if you feel like it. But anyways, it's been that, which is not really a big deal because it's just business related, and I know that the people that do that are just callous people that don't care. Like, they don't have any personal involvement in any of it. They're just pressing buttons, so who cares? Like, that's the reason why I don't really get that upset about it, and I don't really care that much about it. And I tell people, just download the video. I'll know that it's online somewhere, and that's good enough for me. But it's just been that and the anime videos. The anime videos are the source of the greatest source of crazy people in my life. So the idea of doing more of them, I'm like, I would rather not do more of them. Because I know even in the reading of this one, I'm very, I don't even really tell any jokes almost. I'm very to the point, factual, very respectful of everything, reiterating over and over again. There's nothing wrong with the character. He's fine. There's nothing wrong with the fans. Like, trying to just be as distant and analytical as I possibly can be, and as respectful as I possibly can be. But I know for the crazy people, that is never going to be enough. And again, all it takes is one. So, that's another rabbit hole. So yeah, just in the course of all this, just realizing the only people that really matter are the people that are supporting me, the Patreon people. Which is actually another hole. Some artists actually will go so hard into that they end up just doing commissions and nothing else. They will have their own whales. Like, I've seen artists start Patreons, realize, only 10 people are giving me anything substantial. But those 10 people are giving me everything that's keeping me alive, so they end up losing all of their online presence entirely and just doing absolutely nothing except for commissions for those 10 people. And that's it. Like, that's their life now. And of course, the obvious problem with that is that now they are dead in the water in terms of their online presence. No one knows who they are anymore, except for those 10 people. And if those 10 people decide to stop supporting them for whatever the reasons, maybe they get too old or whatever, then there's no market anymore. And they have nothing. So that's why you don't do that. You can end up destroying yourself. Streamers do the same thing. A lot of people go to streaming, and then they will have these streams where they do absolutely nothing except for just read donations. I know in the Game Grumps streams, whenever they started doing that, I noticed that with, what was it they were streaming? I think it was Skyward Sword. Yeah, they were doing the traditional LP, then they stopped and started doing the Skyward Sword streams. And there are massive chunks of those streams where they're not, there's technically gameplay going on, but it's 30 minutes at a time, where it's just a person just reading what people are saying. Because people love to donate money in order to hear you read the thing that they wanted you to say. And streamers will often fall into that trap. And their streams just become shit. They're just garbage. Because there's no content, because all they're doing is just sitting there reading what chatters are saying. And that's not a stream. And you can't bring in new people with streams like that, because that's a shit stream. Don't do that. But a lot of streamers fall into that trap too, because they're trying to appeal to their core base a little bit too much. So there's a certain amount of leverage whenever you're doing stuff like that. So this is the thing that I've been kind of concerned about and thinking about. I've been considering, because if I went and started a poll on my, I've considered doing this. This is actually something I want you guys to give me feedback about. If I asked you guys, what if I just stopped working on everything entirely and focused entirely on making the scary lessons stuff? I would definitely get some people that are like, yeah, we'll support you no matter what. Just do it. Take as much time as you need. And those people would stick around for a long time. Like, a game can take years to make, so even if I decided to do that, which I'm not going to, because that's too crazy for me, then I'm sure that there's some people would stick around for that long, because there are people that believe in me that much, which I definitely appreciate, but still, that is crazy. Don't do that. So, while I'm sure some people would definitely have that feedback, I can't go full streamer, full donation read mode, and dedicate all my time towards that whale mentality, I guess, but the mentality that the core supporters would have. I can't do that. Sure, some people would do that, but it would be a very bad idea to just go all in like that. So I'm trying to find leverage, right? I'm trying to find balance in regards to that. I know that the people that actually matter are the Patreon people. Those are the people that are keeping me alive. If I keep trying to pump out these big bombastic YouTube things, like I can make a lot of people been demanding it. What was it? Choose Your Partner was the name of it. The Pokemon video, the Pokemon cartoon. I can make another one of those, and I'm sure that would take off, and a lot of people will watch it. And again, millions of people would, like, it would have millions of views, just like the original did. I can make videos like that. I know how to make them. I think this one that I'm making now, the Star Wars one, it won't be as big as that, but it'll still get quite a few views, I imagine. I always have a good sense for how many views something can get. I don't go out of my way to try to do that for obvious reasons. So that's the reason why I don't have that many videos that just explode. But I have a lot of videos that actually are above 1 million views. Like, it's not incredibly difficult for me to be able to make something like that actually can succeed. But, you get the idea. I can do that, but it doesn't benefit me. Because out of the millions of views on those videos, almost none of them end up as being Patreon supporters, even though they could just donate $1 every month and spend $12 a year to help keep me alive, which I would love if people did that more often. Even if they did that, they don't, because most people aren't like that. They're not going to go out of their way to make a Patreon account, even though it's fairly simple. As I recall it, it's not like something that takes seconds or anything, but it's exceedingly simple. It's not really that much of an issue. As simple as that it actually is, they're not going to do it. So making videos like that is almost a complete waste of time. The main reason why I do it is just to make sure that I cast a wide net. The reason why here's my battle plan in regards to business. It's try to stay true to my core group of supporters, the people that are actually keeping me alive. Try to make sure that they are happy. And that's the reason why I continue making videos like this, and I try to stay engaged like this. Because I know that the people that actually care about me are the same kind of people that have empathy, and they share similar interests and stuff like that. But also at the same time, I know I can't just rest on my laurels, I guess. That's not a really good way of putting it, because they're not laurels. But I can't also just be content with retaining my core base forever, because as you guys get older, more and more of you will move on with your lives and do other things. So in regards to doing any sort of online content, you always have to keep moving or you die. It's like being a shark. You always have to keep trying to expand your base. Not because you always need more and more supporters, you don't. It's more that you always have to keep looking for, usually young people are usually the ones that do it the most, to be honest with you, in regards to business. Most modern economies are driven by young people. Like the way that movies are made now, the way that video games are made now. It's all leveraged towards young people with lots of disposable income and not a lot of sense. That's most of what it is leveraged towards. And thankfully, I'm not saying you guys don't have any sense. But in regards to doing business, your core demographic is going to be a lower age range. So it's my responsibility to also throw out that net and try to find like-minded people that have similar interests, that want to support me, that are interested in the stuff that I'm going to make, and that, like me as a person as well, in order to help keep me alive so I can keep making stuff. But at the same time, and this is the third part of it, I also have to be fulfilled in my own life. Like, it's not enough to just keep myself alive, because I could do that in any number of ways, right? But if I'm doing stuff that I hate doing, there's no point to me doing it. Sure, I can find the means to keep myself alive by doing this YouTube game, but if it's making me miserable, then why am I not just working as a security guard somewhere? Like, my actual... You know what my actual ideal job would be? Like, I don't know what it would be specifically, but... Like, even something like a security guard wouldn't be too bad. Like, something where you're just... Most of the time, you're not doing anything. You're just being mindful about something. Watching a dial, watching a camera, or something. But most of the time, you're just sitting there listening to podcasts. Or, like in my case, probably drawing or working on a book or something like that. I would love to be able to do that. But all the jobs around here are from... Like, the economy around here is just... It's driven by, like, people are really whipping you. Like, I want maximum productivity. I don't respect your time. Ooh, I saw you for 1 second looking away from your desk. I'm going to bust your balls about it forever. You're now the worst worker in the world. There's a lot of that mentality. Working in this area of Kentucky, and Kentucky in general, just sucks. It just fucking sucks. Because everyone is low income, there's lots of white trash, everyone has anxiety, everyone feels bad about their lives, and that translates very poorly. And the more anxiety that you have, the more it translates into other people's lives, because whenever you approach things from a negative perspective, it gives them negative feelings and makes their life worse. There's a spiral of shit when it comes to low-income areas. So, whenever it comes to working in an area like this, it is garbage. You just can't find something that is satisfying. You can't. But anyway, that's like a side thing. But I would love to be able to have a job that's like that, where I can just be creative while at the same time I also am doing a good job doing something that doesn't require maximum productivity all the time. That way I have enough leverage to be able to do what I want while also being creative at the same time. But anyways, it's like a pipe dream, I guess. For now, this is like my ideal job, as long as I'm able to do stuff that I actually enjoy doing. And I enjoyed making this drawing for the most part, aside from that one part where I combined my line work in the primary. I really enjoyed just drawing. And just drawing individual pictures. The second that I had to start drawing individual pictures that form a coherent narrative, like a comic or a video game, it starts to stress me out, because I know that there's so much more left to go. And that's probably the core thing that ruins the experience for me. If you haven't been able to tell, it's just knowing there's more work to do. There's more work to do. There's so much more work to do. That's the thing that panics me more than anything else, I guess. because it's so nice to be able to just draw something and it is done. This one image tells a picture. It is complete. But that does not generate YouTube views, right? You can't get shit tons of YouTube views and accumulate a large audience if you're doing things that way. So, leverage, balance, trying to figure that out. What do I do? So, I'll probably ask this on Patreon in some form, but I wanted to ask it on YouTube first to get an even wider general stance of things. And I wanted to ask it later on to the video, because the people that are actually watching the video at this point are the people that actually give a shit. I figured that Arkwright would be a good place for this, because I don't want to say the people that only watch the animations are the only ones that care, but you get the idea. If you're watching this, you probably care about me to some degree at this point. So, what do you guys want me to do in regards to how I balance my workload? Like, what do you actually want from me? Because if I asked the general audience, like, do you want me to focus on animations or what? Most people, yeah, I like animations. Ha ha ha, funny pictures. But that's the general audience, and the general audience doesn't really care whether I live or die. They just want me to make the product. They want me to produce product for them to enjoy, because they care about themselves, of course. Like, they care about themselves in the same way that any consumer cares about the product that they're getting. But if I ask you guys, you might actually consider, oh, maybe he will go insane. So maybe don't do that. So how do you guys want me to proceed? I will ask my Patreon people later. But don't just give me the generic, take as much time as you need, buddy. Like, that's not going to do me much good either. What are the things that you like the most from me? Do you even really care about the art gripes? How much time does it take between videos before you notice, oh, Plague hasn't released anything in a while? What are the things that you have enjoyed the most from me? Is it just the animations? What are the most substantive things that I can produce at the fastest rate, at the rate that would make me not go insane, that will prove to be the best use of my time while also having the best balance for my own life, so that I can gain the maximum amount of personal satisfaction from knowing that I have made something that is going to stand the test of time and be something that people will draw positive feedback from in the future, while also still being generally entertaining. Like, that's what I'm looking for. And I know that's a loaded question, because it's a loaded question for me too. But that's what I'm after. I want my life to... I don't have anything else going on. Like, that's one thing to consider. There's no romance in my life. There's no children in my life. There's nothing. I just wake up and work. That's the only thing that I do. So, whenever I want something out of life, I want to make something that will improve the lives of especially young people. Because I had a shitty childhood in terms of my emotions and things like that. My emotions. And I didn't get the actual, like, pragmatic feedback of... Like, I even remember asking my parents, how much do people make a year? And they wouldn't even tell me that. I guess because of their own insecurity about how much they made. I have no idea what was going on with them. But it took me forever to realize, oh, most people will usually make anywhere from about $15,000 a year to $100,000 a year, and it takes about, this is like back in like the 90s, I guess. And by the way, I'll talk about this in a second. And it takes, like $25,000 a year in the 1990s to be able to have a sustainable income, but that's not a particularly good life. Just things like that even. It took me forever to figure that out. Just because I didn't get any of that. But that's what I want to do. I want to be able to give general guidance to young people and improve their lives. Because that's the thing that I'm going to gain the most satisfaction from. I like it whenever people watch something and more than just haha furries or whatever, they watch it and go, oh, that actually helped me. That actually legitimately helped me, and now my life is permanently improved from this point forward because of watching your content. That's what I want. That's the thing that I enjoy focusing on more than anything else. So, how can I do that in a way that satisfies you guys as well? Okay, so picture complete, right? I actually didn't film this part, but I went in and in Photoshop added some little highlight areas for the glow, and I reduced the overall intensity of the glow and adjusted the levels, which is why it looks a little bit different. So, turned out okay. I actually wanted to talk more about the IDW comic that's going on right now. You guys are, if any of you guys are listening to this, like Adam versus Tom, like, you guys are doing a swell job. Don't draw Sonic crying, though. Avoid doing that one, because apparently that's bad. Whisper's been crying a lot in the past couple of chapters for good reason. I won't tell you to ease off on it. Just don't let them see. Just don't let them see, because then they'll get suspicious. Who knows what will happen, right? But that's been going really well. They're doing a good job with that comic. It's definitely not Penders. Don't worry about that shit. Apparently the Sonic movie is okay. It hasn't come out yet. I won't see it for a long time because there's no theaters in this area, so I can't see it one way or the other. So all that's going great, I guess. So Sonic characters are hard to draw. I wish I'd talked more about that. I really wish I had. Sonic characters are hard for me to draw. I really appreciate whenever people draw them well, because holy shit, whenever you see someone that draws a Sonic character well, holy shit, are they good at it. Okay, but anyways. Your feedback, please. Hope you enjoyed, quote-unquote, this video, but I really just needed to get a lot of that off my chest because I've been losing my mind over the past few months because I just have nowhere for it to go. I can't complain to anyone because no one else is around. So, look forward to more content from me in the future, I guess, even if I am not exactly sure what that content is going to be. See you guys soon.